Hello, hello, everybody. It is Tuesday night with the People's Pride Project, and that means we're back on the couch. And this week, I am honored, I am excited to have as my guest Nicole Deggins, founder and CEO of Sista Midwife Productions. Now, you know, we're in a time. We're in a time where Black and Brown people, we're standing up for ourselves again, where we're making our voices heard. And one way that I'm seeing a lot of us do that is reclaiming our positions in our birthing and maternal traditions. And my guest tonight is all about it. She's got it. She is a phenomenal trainer, a phenomenal midwife. I am so excited, y'all. So I'm going to stop rambling
Girl, you
and
I
just
wasn't rambling.
sometimes I can go. But thank you for being on the couch with me tonight.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to be on the couch. Like I was just saying, I wish I was on the couch, but it's all good. I'm like, you look comfy on your couch, but hey, I'm gonna pretend like I'm on the
Hey,
couch.
that's all it is. That's all it is. So, do we want to take it back to the beginning of what got you first interested in birthing and where I know your thing is birth is the revolution.
Yes,
And because I was fortunate enough to take your class, I
thank you.
understand. But let us tell the others that may not know or be familiar with you where that
What
came from.
that is. Yeah, so I mean, the reality is me understanding that birth is the revolution is a newer piece of my evolution and journey in birth work, right? Like I didn't really get that 20 years ago when I entered into this work. My first birth, well, not my first birth. If we get to that, we get to that. But I was a nursing student and I was doing my labor and delivery rotations. And the birth, and I went to clinicals. If anybody is in nursing school or interested in nursing school, been in nursing, you understand, like you do clinicals. So we went to clinicals for labor and delivery. And I remember they had this mom who they were sure was not going to deliver that day. And the story goes, they came to my clinical instructor and was like, she's alone, her husband is not here, and she needs somebody who could just keep her company, somebody who can talk to her. So because I was a talker and everybody knew I talked a lot, they looked at me, well, that should be Nicole patient. And nobody thought the charge nurse, my preceptor, the doctor, nobody thought she was going to have her baby. And lo and behold, 6 hours later, the only person on that clinical shift that day to have her baby was the mom that I was working with. And I remember at this point, by the time you get to labor and delivery rotations as a nursing student, you've been through a few other rotations. And none of those other rotations felt good to me. And I remember just being like, yo, this is what I want to do. Now, I wanted to go to medical school to become an obstetrician, or I wanted to go to med school for something else. But after seeing this birth, I was like, I'm OB. This is it for me. Like, I'm definitely doing obstetrics. Like, the birth was just like, man, it was the best experience as a nursing student. It was like watching the nurse interact with the physician, interact with the mom, watching the baby come out. And the mom was like, she really didn't have anybody. She was in DC alone. Her husband was in California on business. I can't remember why if she was being induced or whatever, but she was by herself. And so just being able to witness the entire picture of that, I quickly realized I'm OB for life. I'm obstetrics, I'm maternal child, I'm helping people have babies. Like that was the first bug bite that I got into entering birth work. And so at that point, my plan was to become an obstetrician. I graduated from nursing school, moved back home to New Orleans, and started working in the field, as a nurse. First with postpartum, then moved to labor and delivery. But I mean, when we talk about birth is the revolution, I really have to say that I can't say exactly when, but that was a journey for me to come to that. For me to get into the deepness of really understanding what birth really is about and how we really can shift dynamics and really shift foundations through birthing. And I don't think people really, people think you having a baby, you just having a baby, but it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. I'm not gonna keep talking because I could just talk for an hour. I don't want to do that. I want us to have more of a dialogue. So I'm not gonna just keep diving in, but I will say that it has been a learning curve for me to come to the understanding that birth really is the foundation of the revolution that can free us up as a people, as a culture. Yeah, so many different things.
I definitely want to delve into that because I feel like they make it like we're always the ones having all of these babies, but to actually recognize the importance of it and the traditions that come with it and the empowerment that is part of this experience. I feel like because it has become so routine and so medicalized and just, black and brown people just sliding out another kid, whatever. So how do we make that connection that is such a foundational piece?
I mean, I think it's rooted if we understand. First, if we go back to realizing that, contrary to popular belief, it's really hard to get here, right? First of all, women only ovulate 10 to 13 times a year. So while it looked like everybody always having babies, it's only 12, maybe 14 times a year if you have a really close cycle, right? It's only 12 on average, 12 times a year that a woman can get pregnant. So when we think about that in and of itself, that's like not a lot. You know what I mean? Because we have a lot of sex out here, but it's only 12 times a year. The egg is only available 36 hours max. Yes, we have outliers, 72 hours and these different things, but on average, 12 hours even, the egg is done. It's you ovulate, boop, 12 hours later, 16, 36 at the top, boop, it's gone. So we got 12 different times, 36 hours, 12 times a year that you can actually get pregnant. So when we really think about the realities of how difficult it is to really get pregnant, then you have to have the right amount of sperm that's doing the right thing, going in the right way. You have to have intercourse at the right time. Like, so while we have all of these people on earth and 4 million women give birth every year in the United States, it's really not an easy thing to get pregnant. Ask anybody who's dealing with infertility issues and they can let you know that, right? So when we think about that and we think about indigenous understandings of life, we have to understand that. And then let me backtrack. When you're born, you have millions of eggs. By the time you get to puberty, most of them eggs are gone already. So it's a finite number of eggs that's available. It's buku millions of sperm that's coming out, but they have to meet. And so when we really think about the fact that it's only a few eggs that's going to come out, it's really not easy to get pregnant necessarily. It feels easy because it just happens, but statistically, I'm talking about, right? If we calculate and we do mathematics, the number of times we have sex, the number of times there's ejaculation, the number of times the condom break, the number of times the pull out don't work, all of them things, we still, it's find out number of times that we can actually get pregnant. So when we understand that thing, we have to understand that as humans in this body, in the physical form, if you make it through, because then wait now, once the fertilization happens, right? There are so many things that happen between fertilization and birth. There are so many, like 50% of pregnancies probably end in miscarriage. There are so many miscarriages that we don't even know that happen, that people ovulate, there's a sperm, there's the interaction, but then because of whatever chromosomal abnormalities, uterine abnormalities, emotional stress, hormonal abnormalities, the pregnancy don't stick. So there are so many things that can happen that could stop the pregnancy. So when we look in the mirror and we see ourselves, we got to know that you was set here, you came here, you chose to come here on purpose for a purpose. And so when we begin to approach birth and pregnancy with this understanding that you come here on purpose for a purpose, and really, this is deep because a lot of people don't want to like go here, but really don't have nothing to do with your parents. You came here as an individual. You chose to come here, choosing your maternal and paternal, choosing your masculine and feminine on purpose for a reason. And so, if we can begin to connect to that understanding, that's the beginning of this thing that birthed is the revolution. Then, when we look at where the attacks have been historically on Black people, particularly in the Americas,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we've had attacks on us all over the world, but when we think about the attacks that have happened on us in these Americas, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's North or South America, we consider those things, particularly in the United States. We know that the attack has always started with the womb. They wanted to control our fertility from the beginning. Why? Because they understood the power of what we have inside of us, with us, and how we can bring forth life, and the connection that it gives us to divinity. Birth
Mm-hmm.
connection to divinity. When we give birth, we are God in action, literally. And so, I mean, that's like the simple, the little bit of the foundation of it.
So that's the abridged version.
Yes, thank you. That's the word. That's the abridged version. Yeah.
But first of all, let's roll back. You said you're here on purpose for a purpose. Can you say that one more time? Because that resonates a little differently.
Each and every one of us as soul beings, as spirits from another realm, from the other side of the veil, right?
Mhm.
We choose to come here for a mission. Now, unfortunately, many of us do not fulfill our missions because there are powers in place. And I'm not just talking about the man or that kind of stuff. I'm talking about adversarial forces attacking us from all sorts of spaces that are working to keep us from fulfilling our missions. But when we choose to come here, we come here with a mission. And really, was this a dream I had recently? How did I recently had a download about how we come here really with a mission, and I'm losing it. I cannot remember. This is so interesting, Sheena, because I'm remembering now that I did have this recent download. You know how you wake up out of your sleep and you try to process something, but you don't
Mhm.
write it down, and so then you forget about it. But it was a really serious download about our missions for entering this dimension, about our missions for coming to Earth in this lifetime, in this space, in this way, on purpose. And so no one can necessarily tell you what your purpose is, because we do not live in a culture that understands how to connect with an unborn spirit to get the information and energy and reason for why we're here. But what I know for sure is that we do have a mission. I have been and still studying the traditions of the Dagara people out of West Africa. My teacher was Elder Melodon Masome. He recently transitioned, giving him all honor, praise, and thanks. And so basically, he teaches us that in their culture, in their village, they actually have ritual to speak with the unborn baby, to ask the baby, why are you coming here? What's your mission? What's your purpose? Why are you coming here? And the baby from inside of the womb of the mother will speak by way of the mother to speak on its mission. And so there's a mission in place. There's a reason why we're coming here. And so unfortunately, in our culture, we don't have the skills, the shamans, the doctors, the elders to help us understand that mission. But you could best believe, and if we begin to pay more attention to our youth, and I'm not talking about our youth and those who are 10, 15, 20, I'm talking about our babies.
Mhm.
We put the ear to these 2-year olds, to these 3-year olds, and just listen to the things that they say. They're telling you what their missions are. They're giving, watch what they do and how they are and what their skill set is. They're giving us their mission. They're giving us a glimpse into their memories. Unfortunately, the brain begins to change, and by age 7, 8, 9, things have shifted, and so they're no longer able to connect with the other world in the same way. So we have to pay very close attention. Now, this is the other piece of it, though. How we are born impacts our children's ability to
Yeah.
remember their mission. So when we are forced to have cesarean sections, whether necessary or unnecessary, when we are forced to have inductions and we have synthetic oxytocin, when we are forced into all of this trauma and drama and loud noises and lights and people and things touching our babies before they have had an ability to really establish their existence in this three-dimensional world, then we have impacted their ability to remember why they came. And then we, not even they, we spend the rest of our lives trying to remember why we are here.
Oh,
All our lives. That's what adulthood is about, right? Adulthood is about repairing the traumas of our childhood so that we can live out our purpose. But if we were in a culture where our purposes were already accepted and understood, then we could help our children live out their purposes. And just because you're good at something don't mean that that's necessarily the final piece of the purpose, right? So just because you could shoot a basketball don't mean you came here to be a baller. You have a bigger purpose. We all have bigger purposes about elevating the vibration of our people. And right now, we are living in a time that's really telling us that we got to come here with a mission. And they are robbing our children of their value and of their goals and missions, first by how we are born, and then the way we so pressed to early childhood education, 3K, put them in pre-K 3. Next thing is gonna be, pre-K 3, pre-K 4. What is that doing? That is teaching them how to sit down and follow the rules. Following the rules ain't never made nobody great. I can tell you that.
absolutely. Absolutely. That was a whole sermon. I'm not even going to lie.
So I'm like,
My
stop me.
tambourine was going because there was so much. Oh, my goodness.
And somebody I saw must have put in the chat said that's melanoma. Like, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
yes, melanoma soulmate
Mhm.
all day. May he continue to rest in power and guide me in my work. Because I know on the other side, he is, yes, helping me continue to learn and to bring forth his messages to our people.
That is number one. I always feel like the parallel between the elders and the newborns, that exchange of knowledge and the coming and the going of the spirit is always so wild to me, for lack of a better word. Like there's
Yes,
this consistent and constant connection of not necessarily the beginning and the end, but the infinite cycle
the
of it all.
circle. Yep,
Hmm.
the
So
circle.
to definitely recognize the point of how you're saying that the children come in knowing,
They come
and
in knowing.
part of what we do is break down that knowing, thinking that we know better. And especially in our communities, a lot of that was fear to not disrupt or not step out of the lines, because then negative happens, so, which again is part of the indoctrination, is in part of the historic detachment, right? So,
Yes.
man,
It's
listen.
an interesting thing. If anybody who's listening today has never been introduced to Dr. Joy DeGruy and the post-traumatic slavery syndrome, you definitively need to check that out. And recently I was on a call. I was like, did I just make up something? Because did I just make up something new? Because I was like, there's also post-traumatic birth syndrome, right? And so that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing, which also is connected to how we are loving and caring for our children, right?
Absolutely.
Because you so traumatized, you don't want to breastfeed. You so traumatized, you giving your baby to other people to hold and to be with because you don't understand the value, even if we've had a traumatic birth, or even if we were unable to be connected with our newborns right after delivery because we needed a cesarean section or all of these various things, what we can understand is that if we take that baby and we put that baby skin to skin, I'm not talking onesie on t-shirt, I'm
Right.
talking literal skin to skin, naked body to naked body. And we do that collectively, consistently for hours on end for the first couple of weeks of life. we can shift some of those hormonal things that were lost in that traumatic birth and regain the power and the understanding and the connection and shift the hormonal cocktail to really help us bond with our newborns. It's like the thing that we need the most. Unfortunately, when a woman has a traumatic birth, the thing that she needs the most is the thing that she don't want.
Right.
Because sometimes when she's been traumatized, she don't want to hold the baby as much. She don't want to be as connected to the baby. But being connected to the baby in a real physical way can actually erase some of the trauma. And so we've got to find a way to bring us back. Ideally, the prevention is, they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So the idea is to prevent the trauma by understanding the power of birth, by understanding the value of normal physiological birth, by embracing the reality that you don't need an induction at 39 weeks just because they said you needed an induction, or so many conversations I have, because there are even places where the physician did not say you needed an induction. You two agreed to an induction because the physician is going out of town and you want your physician at your birth. We have got to release these people from our power. Why are you giving so? This is your thing. And
Yep.
I get it. And so that's the reason why you should have a midwife, or that's the reason why you should have a doula, because what that means, what's happening in that space is I want to have someone at my birth who I know, love, and trust. I want to have someone at my birth who believes in me and who I believe in. I want to have someone at my birth that I've known for some time. And so I will make a decision to have an unnecessary induction to have that comfort. But if we hire a birth sister, then you can have that person regardless of what physician is available. And then you can decide to wait for labor to start on its own rather than have an unnecessary induction that has the potential to lead to increasing amounts of trauma, that has the potential to erase a lot of the normal physiology that is necessary to really bring forth life in a way that is consistent with the way that our ancestors are supposed to come here.
Absolutely. Now, socially, this whole word doula, which I'm not a fan of, but
I
it's
mean, that's, you heard me click that into birth sister right quick.
right. Um, this is becoming more popular. This is becoming more common. But way before this word ever really existed in common knowledge, we had folks. There was always somebody.
Somebody.
Somebody's granny, somebody's auntie, somebody. Had to live
Exactly.
with everybody, knew everybody. And by taking that out, not only did you disrupt the act of birth, you removed a pillar of the community. So, is that, are we able to recreate that? Do you feel?
Yeah, I think that we are recreating it in a way that is literally recreating it. So it's no longer the same because, so as an example, my memory, and I'm thinking even back like in 1995, I'm working as a labor and delivery nurse, right? And it would be, I remember seeing, be like, you was here last week with another girl. Girl, yeah, they all live on my floor. They all live in my unit, or whatever, right? Or yeah, that was my other little cousin. I remember there were times when we would see the same grandmother, the same friend, the same auntie who would come with multiple individuals by blood or just because you lived
Mhm.
on the same block. I saw it, right? And so what we do when we create this new thing, so we're recreating it in the sense that number one, now there's this training, right? Like I do a training. And so you have different information to help in a different time. Back then, they just came based on what happened last time. They came based on their own personal experience. They came based on the fact that they have the time to come, right? So they always came and they knew what they knew and they were supporting, because at the end of the day, there's all kinds of debates about what makes a good doula and how long a doula training takes and all of these things. There is a continuum on this thing.
Mhm.
At a surface level, I could teach you how to be a good doula in 30 minutes. Because at the end of the day, all you got to do is show up and bear witness, hold a hand, whisper in the ear, be the rock, be the support person, right? Now so when I say we're recreating it, now we're adding in all of this extra information so people feel like they have to understand fetal monitoring, they have to understand inductions, they have to understand C-sections, they have to understand all of these pieces. But at the end of the day, the role of the birth sister, the role of the doula is just to support the person giving birth, to support that woman in bringing forth life. And you don't have to know all of this stuff to hold her hand, to wipe her brow, to give her a sip of water. So in the previous lifetimes, the birth companion, the doula, the birth sister really was just a support person, not just as in that's all she did, but she was a support person. And she knew birth and she recognized what birth looked like because she had been at a lot of births, not because she took a class, because the midwife or the physician had all that stuff, right? And so now that we have shifted, so we can it's being recreated, but differently. We're in a new time. Most of us are in the hospital having our babies. 99% of us are in the hospital having our babies. And so we realize that we have to kind of change things a little bit just in order to connect to the current system, right? So we're recreating it in a new way, just like with everything, right? It's 2022. What happened in 1902, 1922, 2000 is different from today. So we're recreating it in a way that is accurate and helpful for today. But I would also say and add that I believe that we can there's not necessarily this big need to claim the doulaship in this way that is being claimed, right? Your sister could just come and be a support person. But now we got COVID, and now they're saying your sister can't come because she not the doula, and your boyfriend, your husband, your baby daddy can't come. Like they're putting all of these restrictions on us to capture the womb.
That feels like that's also cyclical. Like every so often, oh, they found a way around it. Let's throw something else.
Exactly. That's what I see. That's what I'm trying to get at. Exactly. It's like they were doing it this way. That's no longer okay. Let's throw this monkey wrench in. Oh, wait a minute. Now they're going to do this. Right. And so we just have to keep evolving and changing how we show up so that we can continue to, because even before, I mean, very recently, I used to tell people I would train, I was like, girl, you ain't got to be certified. Don't worry about that thing. Ain't no certification, ain't nothing national. None of this stuff don't even matter. Now I counsel a little bit differently, not because I think certification is important, but because now I see that they have now changed it again. Then put another monkey wrench, right? During COVID, if you ain't have no certificate, they wasn't letting you in the hospital. So now it's like, okay, y'all, I still don't think certification is necessary. However, they keep changing the game. And we have to stay up on the rules of the game as long as we are birthing 99% in the hospital. We got to stay up on the rules of the game.
I have two questions with that. I was recently speaking with one of my friends that is also a birth worker, and she was saying that now they are trying to make you could only be in hospitals if you're certified through DONA, I believe. So now she's having to do all of her recertifications again just to make sure she can keep doing what she does.
So what I would say is that's not absolute.
Okay.
And that is a hospital by hospital by hospital situation. And so what we have to do as a community is to battle that. It is unfortunate, I am in the process of creating a hospital birth worker toolkit that the people who train with me can utilize to bring to the facilities to show what their training is. And I am very committed to making sure that the women that I train can get into hospitals regardless. That's discriminatory. That is, in my opinion, is damn near illegal. Like, what do you mean? And it's really only a soft policy that we can change. So we don't have to accept that. But when y'all start going out and saying, because I've had people come to my training and say, you're the training I really wanted, but I had to get donor first so I could be
Right.
legitimized. When you say that, sister, when you say that, Black woman, then you are giving the hospital reason to deny the Sista Midwife Productions training. F them, F that policy. Let's break down that policy. So my goal is for us to band together to change the policies. Because if you look at who, I can only speak for myself, but and not even that. I can also speak on knowledge of other Black doula trainers who are
Mhm.
not donor, who are connected to their own organizations. But speaking for myself in particular, I have a master's degree in nursing. I am a midwife. I have over 25 years of experience. Are you telling me that the information that I provide is not up to par or up to standard with anything that any donor trainer is bringing? Most of donor trainers are not nurses, or not midwives, don't have master's degrees. Like, how dare you? So my goal is for us to begin to dismantle. That's a part of dismantling the system. How you gonna tell me that my doulas can't come into your facility? And I could guarantee you that my 40 hours of training has prepared them at, listen, and or at least equally. At least as equally. I would say even better than some. And this is no shade on a donor trainer, because we have wonderful, good donor trainers, right? But don't tell me that because I'm not donor, and because the people that I've trained did not come through donor, that they are not qualified to support families. And so we have to go us. It's just like, I remember this was years ago. It was a sister who I knew who had a job, a corporate job, and she had braids. The front of her hair, like from here to here, was a perm. And then she had braids in the back. And I was like, I'm confused. And she was like, girl, yeah, my job don't let me have braids. Okay, you look crazy, right? And so she basically will pull her hair back and have it in a bun all the time. And I remember my mother at the time was like, well, you have to understand, people got, I'm like, first of all, we have to accept who we are and be
Yes.
able to move forward and be able to stand up for what is righteous. Like, how dare you tell me now? Little Caucasian girl could wet her hair, it be wet, scraggly, different colors, blonde right here, then her real color, different, you know what I'm saying? That's professional, but I can't come in here with my locks or my braids, and that's not professional. Now, some of that has shifted, but we could search Instagram and Facebook and social media and see story after story of individuals, children, and adults who've been thrown out of schools, off dance teams, off like out of corporate America because their hair wasn't right. And
Right.
in some of these spaces, it has been the person who have the non-right hair who has agreed and moved forward with these things. We have to challenge these systems and dismantle them because it doesn't make any sense. So, Hospital A, you're saying that you're concerned about perinatal disparities. Yet you're telling me that because I'm not a donor trained doula, I can't come into your facility. That's problematic. But the first thing to answer also what you said about your friend who mentioned that it's not every hospital, it's not everywhere, it's a few pockets, but we have to create a standing amongst ourselves to understand that what we have is valuable and not only good enough and oftentimes better, because that's our standard. Our standard as Black people is always excellence. We are excellent. We do everything in excellence. Need I say Serena Williams? You know what I'm saying? We are excellence. We do everything in excellence. Simone Biles, we do everything in excellence. So to tell me that what I offer is not excellent and not good enough for your facility is bullshit. And so, though, as individuals, we have to stand in power in support of our trainers. We have to stand in support of our trainers. So don't tell me you came to my training because this is what you really wanted. but you took donor for legitimacy. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. That's bullshit to me. I've had people tell me that. I'm looking like, are you kidding me? That's not okay. We have to understand the value of what we offer and who we are.
And to piggyback off of that, we do tend to walk in with this idea of who we are and what we want, but then we fall with the okey doke because we don't want to make waves. We don't want to be the one that gets, the mistreatment or the one that's used as the example. And it's like, bruh, my purpose could be the very reason that I'm putting up this fight.
And the thing is, I'm not saying you go in there rah rah rah, waving your flag, angry, yelling at people, and all that things. There are ways to have these conversations. And if you need support in how to do these conversations in a professional manner, holla at me. If you train with me, holla at me. I'm gonna help you do it. Let's do it. And I say that all the time. I'm like, if you train with me, I am committed to spending the time and energy to make sure that we can do what we need to do to give you access to the facility. I can't promise nothing, but I'm willing to go to bat with you. Now, what does that mean? That looks like, who is the head of nursing? Who is the CEO of the hospital? Who are the physicians in charge? Who is the head of the obstetrics board in your at the hospital? Who's the head of OB at the hospital? This doesn't mean just going in there, I'm her doula. No, we do have to approach it methodically, and it's not going to be immediate. But let's make it happen, not necessarily for you, but for the
Right.
next person. And I saw somebody say, like, even as a donor trainer, I couldn't come in with my vac status. That's a whole nother, that's an issue that is, that's a whole nother realm, right? I can't help you with that, because there are various policies and procedures that these people have in place. There are hospitals who have fired nurses because they won't get vaccinated. So certainly if they're firing nurses, they're not going to allow a doula who is non-vaccinated. If that's their policy around vaccines. So that is something that I unfortunately can't control. And I can't control even the policies around who you trained with. But what I would say is I'm willing to go to bat for organizations, for individuals who are and it's not just donor. There are like 4 big white long-standing training organizations like Kappa, Dona, I think it's called Alice or something like that. There's a few of them who are the core 4 that have been in existence for the longest, who get passed. And so we have to figure out a way that we get passed as well.
In before I found your program, I was looking at everybody. And I did look at Dona, and for whatever reason, my heart was like, that one ain't for me. So, although this is being lauded as like the standard, if we're going to come into these spaces in our authentic selves and really be there to do the work, we have to be willing to challenge what we're being told should be the standard.
And that's my point. That's my point. Don't take a donor training because you think that donor, or a Kappa training or whatever, because you think that that legitimizes you. We have to accept the reality that Mama Shafia Monroe Consulting, kicked off Black doula trainings. And I often shout her out because she's one of my elders, friends, mentors, and she gave birth to Sista Midwife doula training. Okay, we are different individuals, different energies, different information in our trainings, but at the same time, we are both small Black women-led organizations out here training Black doulas for Black people. And so we have to understand that her doula training is everything. And if we have to have faith in ourselves. And so you don't need to get another training from somebody else. We need to challenge the system that is questioning what we have to offer, because we already know that what we have to offer is superb. It's top notch.
That whole double think that we're so conditioned to do,
Conditioning.
yes, that's part of the programming. That's a major part of the programming.
Yeah.
Whereas historically, they learned from us, took it and ran with it, and then told us that we
Put
ain't
it
know.
in a box. Put
You
a bow
know,
on that shit, and then
right?
say, "Look what we giving you." Like I gave this to. Wait a minute. You open it up, and it's your used pair of shoes.
Absolutely. So I feel like across the board, that's something that we need to actually take ownership of as a weakness that we're perpetuating for ourselves. Like, listen, we, like you said, we're not valuing what we have. And it's not because it is any less. That's the mental game that's
The
been played for
conditioning.
so
Yep.
long.
Yep. It is the conditioning. It's the reason why we often like. Give you an example. Girl, I'm not. I tried using the black electrician. I'm not fooling with no more black electricians. Let me tell you something. I didn't use buku contractors and electricians, black, white, Hispanic, all in between. Contractors suck. The race is irrelevant. Believe it. But we are conditioned to
Mhm.
believe that black businesses, you will let a white business fail you every day for 365 days, and you will never say, I'm never going to use a white business again. But let a black business fail you twice, and you're not
Right.
using black businesses no more. And that's the conditioning. That's the conditioning. And it's unfortunate because yeah, I ain't gonna say because for so many reasons it is unfortunate, and it is the conditioning. You know, we repeat it to ourselves. Black folks don't know how to do business. Black people, this and the other. I have definitively learned too, as a small black owned business, I'm interacting at this point with many larger businesses. At this point in my business creation, I'm interacting with all sorts of places, and I sit back and I'm like, wait a minute. I thought y'all was supposed to have it together. Y'all
Mm.
not responding to my emails. Y'all jacking me over on my refund. Your advertising is false. Your customer service sucks. And you are a large international organization. Trust me. Don't blame it on no black. It's not. These companies out here doing garbage work. And every time it happens, I'm like, dang, I'm doing real good. My response time is accurate. How we do customer service is good. That doesn't mean that everybody is 100% positive, but I would venture I could say I could count the number of people who have emailed us with an actual complaint about what we've offered or what we've given. I could count on one hand. So it's not about black. Don't say because they black. I'm not fooling with no more black so and so. But that's the conditioning. And it permeates across all of, we don't want no black teacher because blah, blah, blah. We don't want a black plumber because blah, blah, blah. But trust and believe, the white plumbers and the white teachers and the white businesses, it's the same. It's the same.
And to a point, it's even worse because they know we're going to keep coming back anyway. So what difference does it make?
That part. Exactly. Exactly.
One thing I want to kind of rewind to, which struck me so much about your training. I am a grown woman. I have given birth to two children. There is so much that I was like, wait a minute, why did I never know this? Like, there is so much about our womanhood, about our bodies, about our understanding of how things actually work that I don't know if it's because we've given our power away so much that, well, I guess the doctor knows, so that's all that matters, or where we're getting lost in translation that we're no longer teaching ourselves, our daughters, like, I was talking to my mom about classes. She was like, say what now? Like, she never heard about it. And I'm like, why is this information not a staple in our community anymore?
You know, I think it's just a part of our history, particularly in this country, on this continent of Turtle Island. I think it is just a continuation of the tragedy of the Ma'afa, of the colonialism, of the colonization that has happened to people worldwide. You know, like our indigenous cultures and customs and value, even like just thinking about it, a lot of it has to do with what's the word, capitalism. A
Mhm.
lot of it has to do with capitalism because there was a time when your menstrual cycle came and you stayed in your space and you sat and you bled and you had tea and your womb was massaged and that's what you did. But
Mhm.
now we got to go to work. So
Yeah.
because we got to go to work, we got to have tampons and cups and pads and pills and all of these things to make our periods, quote, tolerable in order to keep moving. We want to play volleyball and basketball and we want to do gymnastics at a time when I remember being in this workshop and this woman said, you know, we have an increasing amount of endometriosis, right? And she said, I wonder what is the connection between endometriosis and I think it was Title 10 as an example. This women's lib capital, it's all connected back to capitalism, right? But in women's lib, we want to do what they do. Throw like a girl. I could do this, da 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 da. When you on your period, you ain't supposed to be out there flipping and hanging upside down and doing all of these things. Even in yoga, any yoga practitioner, any yoga teacher will tell you that when you're on your menstruation, you're not supposed to do inverted poses. You're not supposed to invert when you're on your period. But you out here on your period, hanging upside down, doing flips, doing all of these things. You're not supposed to be doing all of that. So, in order to show up for the capitalistic society that has been created, that we are now a part of, we have shifted our natural way of being in exchange for capitalism and being able to keep up with the Thomases and the Joneses and whoever else we're keeping up with, you know. And I think that all of that is connected. So we're no longer connected to what is natural, a natural part of being a woman. We have been removed from those things. And in the way of, well, we can do these things. Sure, you can. Just how they say, just because you can don't mean you should,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that we have forgotten these lessons as young Black women, and I am guilty. I remember, I remember my daughter was, I don't know, she was like a year old, and I had on some very low because I just very recently started wearing heels again, and I still don't really wear them because after I had my daughter, I couldn't wear heels really. So they was very low platform sandals, and they weren't really even heels because the whole thing was a platform, and so ultimately I had a little bit of elevation, you know, little bit. And the elder that I'm connected to, she said, you ain't supposed to have them heels on. You know, your womb's still healing. And I was like, well, if I don't wear them now, I'm not going to never be able to wear them because I'm trying to get pregnant again. She was like, well, you ain't supposed to be wearing them right now. Right. And I was like, okay, girl, I just kind of brushed it off, whatever. But then I began to really understand that, first of all, we know that 6 weeks recovery is garbage.
Right.
And when you are breastfeeding, the entire time that you're breastfeeding, your body is still in a postpartum recovery state. The relaxing in your body is still doing its thing. Your hips, your joints, your ligaments are still doing its thing, right? But we so busy, we want to be cute again. We want to get back out in culture again, and we're not. We're back in society again, and we're not listening to our elders who are teaching us the ways of how it used to be. So even when we get the information, we ignoring it.
That's true. That's
And
true.
so we have to take responsibility for going back to our old ways. We can't keep saying that that's old time. Yeah, it is old time, and it was righteous. It was
Right.
protective. It was important. I was sharing a story today with my training coordinator where I was saying, I was talking about Jenny Joseph, one of my sheroes who I love. And I remember I had the fortunate ability to be able to talk to her soon after I had my daughter. And she was doing a consultation call with me, giving me some advice on an idea I had. And she said, okay, at the time my daughter was like 4 months. So at this point, I'm ready to get back to work, right? And I got this whole idea planned out what I want to do. And Jenny said, she said, well, she said, this is beautiful. She said, but I want you to listen to me. She said, now my daughter was born in November. And this call happened like in February, March, right? So it was early in the year, but my baby was like 4 or 5 months. She said, when you begin to work on this program next year, do you hear what I'm saying, my darling? She said to me, do you hear what I'm saying? When you begin to work on this project next year. So what she was telling me is, baby, don't you slow down. You got a newborn. I know you think you rich, moving and rolling, and your baby 4 months old, and you think you got breastfeeding down. She's only 4 months old. You got a long way to go. So next year, she said to me, and I was like, next year? But I feel like I'm not doing anything. I want to, this is what I'm telling her. She said, well, if I remember correctly, you told me your baby was born at barely 5 pounds. And it sounds like your baby has gained a lot of weight, which means you've been doing a lot. You have been healing and breastfeeding your baby and growing your baby from 5 pounds to 10 pounds. That's a lot. You've been doing a lot. And I had to really, I was like, wow, that's deep, and so now I try to impart that wisdom on my doulas, my birth sisters, to bring to their moms and on the moms that I support and see in community. But the reality is, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear it. We want to be back, cute, working, moving, doing. We don't want to sit down, but we need to sit down.
I think a part of that correlates not only to capitalism, but the structure that has been created where Black people, especially Black women, are not allowed to rest. Rest now
Mm-hmm.
feels guilty.
But
If we're
that's
not
connected
moving,
to
we're lazy.
capitalism. That's all goes back to the system of making money. We have, from the beginning of the creation of these United States, since the beginning of the creation of this country, we have been taught that we have to, like, not that we've been taught it, but they have forced us to support the economy of this place.
Right.
And so, yeah, we are caught up in it, and we're not designed to rest. We are not taught about rest, but all of that is back to capitalism. Because if you rest, you lazy, which goes back then to Dr. Joy DeGrury's post-traumatic slavery syndrome. If you're not working 24/7, you're lazy. But who told us that? Who taught us that? So that's back to capitalism and them utilizing our bodies for monetary gain, period. Our bodies, our wombs, our work for monetary gain. And I'm looking at the time. I'm like, we already up on our hour. Golly.
Listen, we could always do another one. The couch is always open. This has been a fantastic conversation. There was a question posed with regard to making the transition from being a doula or birth sister to being a midwife. Now, I know for me, I was looking more going the CPM route because I'm really not, hospitals are cool, but I spend enough time in there. I'd rather help the misfits, than be part of that system. So, how would you suggest going about that?
Yeah, so the first thing would be just what you just talked about, right? Figuring out being a midwife, how, right? Do you want to primarily work in homes, or do you want to primarily work in hospital births? Keeping in mind that over 99% of Black women are birthing in hospitals. So who's your audience? Who are you going to serve, and where do you want to serve? Then you want to understand, what are the laws in your state? So if you're interested in becoming a certified professional midwife, which is the CPM, you want to understand, what are the laws in your state? Are you planning to move anytime soon? What does that look like? I think that being a doula or a birth sister is a great start, because for me, it's not a requirement to being a midwife, but I feel like it helps people get involved in what it means to serve in that kind of way, and what it means to be on call, and what it means just be immersed in the birth project, in the birth system. And then just so make that decision and then start doing research. We're actually in the process. I'm super excited. I have somebody helping me work on like a guide to midwifery education and the next steps. Like, okay, I want to be a midwife. What kind of midwife, and how do I? Yeah, girl, I ain't it's my first time even mentioning it in public out loud, because we working on it. But it should be done. I'm prayerfully by the end of the semester, because I'm working with an intern on it. So like when she leaves, that's the help. It's gone. But I think that's the first step. If you are not a nurse, and you want to become a nurse midwife, you have to at minimum have a bachelor's degree in something. And there are programs where you don't have to be a nurse first and you can go straight into your degree program. You want to understand that is shifting. If you are young and you just get into midwifery and you want to do nurse midwifery, look into that doctoral thing, because now they're shifting all advanced practice nurses into doctoral programs. So if that is something that you're interested, understand that that's the research. There are about 30 some odd schools nationwide. Nurse midwives can be licensed and work in every state of this country, but they operate differently based on the state that you're in. If you're interested in home birth midwifery, you want to find out how you want to do that. Do you want to do traditional midwifery where you just learn on your own, and then not always all the way on your own, but you get your didactic on your own, and then you find a preceptor and you begin to do your clinicals with someone? No. And let me hit on this. No matter where you are in the spectrum, you got to have a preceptor. You got to have people who are going to help teach you the clinical skills of this thing. Go prepared. Don't just be trying to call up these elders or these midwives who've been working for years and be like, I need somebody to be my preceptor. Have your information together. Do your reading, do your research. Google NACPM, Google MEAC, MEAC, Google NARM, NARM. Understand these organizations. Get the foundational information first, so that when you approach somebody for potentially being your preceptor and they start asking you questions, you not just random, you don't know nothing. Go to some births first. Find a midwife. Let's say you want to be a CPM and you're already a birth sister. Find a home birth midwife and say, hey, I'm a doula, I'm a birth sister. I would love to help if there's any clients that you have who are looking for a doula, particularly if they can't afford one. I'm willing to be a doula for them, so you can witness a home birth, so that when you approach someone to be their mentee, to apprentice with them, you have some experience, have read some books, be able to have a conversation. Don't show up cold with nothing. Right. That's insulting. It's time consuming. It's energy draining. So if I would say, what's the transition from being a birth worker into midwifery? Start off with figuring out what kind of midwife you want to become, a home birth midwife or a hospital midwife. Decide, where do you want to work? Do you live in Arkansas and that's where you're going to be? Okay, great. What are the rules, laws, and regulations in Arkansas for midwifery? Understand those things and let that help guide you for the type of midwifery the training you want to do. Begin saving money. It ain't free. It ain't cheap. How much money are you going to need for this thing? Student loans are not always an option. In most cases, unless you're doing nurse midwifery, it's not an option at all. Start saving your money. Start thinking about childcare. Start understanding with your family. This is why I think that being a doula first helps, because if you marry, your husband got to understand that this birth work thing is a family affair. You cannot do it without the support, especially if you have children. So if you have children and you're interested in doing this thing, they have to understand that when duty calls, duty calls. And you can't be playing games with who gonna pick up the children from school. I got to go to a birth. And so making sure that you're fat, and that's where I feel like being a doula first helps lay that foundation, because you can see what it feels like in your family. The other thing that I tell people sometimes that nobody don't want to hear is, it's okay to not do it all right now. So if you're 27 and you got 2 small children at the house and you're trying to raise your children, baby, trust and believe, birth ain't going nowhere. You can wait till you're 37. I know that feels like a long time and you want to do it right now, right now, right now. It's okay. Like Jenny Joseph told me, when you think of next year, it's not the end of the world. You have not failed because it took you 10 years instead of 4 years. You breastfeeding. No. There's a time, a place, a season for everything. And that's another thing that I'm finding with all of these beautiful, strong, dynamic, young Black women coming into this work. They ready. and they want to do it right now, right now, right now. You trying to homeschool and go to midwifery school and you pregnant. Girl, sit down. You got to be an example for the work. You have to be able to tell your moms that you work with in 10 years how you were able to do it and how you made the difficult decision to wait a minute because you wanted to focus on breastfeeding your children. You wanted to focus on homeschooling your children. You wanted to focus on, getting your family, gardening, whatever. Like, it's not, birth ain't going nowhere. The one thing that we know will never stop is people having babies. So you don't have to rush into it. Take your time. Part-time is okay. It's okay to go part-time. But they need it. But Nicole, they need it because we out here. I know, and I know, and they're gonna need it in 5 years, and they're gonna need it in 10 years, and so that's the other thing. Like, depending on where you are in your life, don't kill yourself to show up, because we need you to be sustainable, and you won't be sustainable if you're not taking care of yourself. So I would say that too.
Whew. Just let it simmer just for a minute. Just let it simmer for a minute. Because I know we're already at our hour. And I'm
I
not
know,
trying
I
to
can't believe it.
listen. Folks have been watching. They're into it. They want to know more. So if you ever have the time, the availability, whatnot, you are more than welcome to come back.
Come
I
back to the
know absolutely the couch. Listen, this is what we do here. We keep
yes.
it simple. We get to talk to the people. Um, for those that want to follow up with Nicole and take her training, let me tell you, it is fabulous. I never saw myself in this line of work whatsoever.
What?
No, no, never, never. But something, I go where I'm led. And the call kept coming, and I started researching. And like I said, I was looking at different things, and I kept coming back to yours, and I kept coming back to yours. And all of a sudden, it was just like, and I'm not even going to lie, I think you had a sale. And I was like, oh, oh.
I'm gonna speak on two things. And speaking of sale, number one, come take my training, even if you don't want to do birth work, because there is so much valuable information that you can share with yourself, with your sisters, with your friends, with your families. That said, it is, as much as we don't like the word doula, it is the jump off of World Doula Week tonight. So today is the first day of World Doula Week, and we do have $100 discount code WDW, World Doula Week 22. WDW22 is discount code. And you can save $100 off of your doula training, whether you do a payment plan or whether you pay in full. Our next doula training is scheduled to begin Tuesday, August 30th. We only doing one doula training this year, y'all. It's a lot for me, because I just, how you see me right now, this how I be for 4 hours, just throwing it at you for 4 hours every week for 10 weeks. And I love it. And I realized last year I did too. I can't do it twice. I can't do it twice. I'm only doing it once this year. It starts August 30th, but our 6-month payment plan is up. We also have a 5-month payment plan, a 4-month, a 3-month payment plan. The payment plans expire as we get closer to the training date. So like the 6-month payment plan is going to end the end of May. And then the 5-month payment plan is going to end at the end of June. But right now you could sign up with just $25 down using the discount code WDW22, World Doula Week 22. Look, Sister Sheena got it, boop, and popped it up there. That's your discount code. Follow me on Instagram. It's going to keep popping up all week. But save that $100 and sign up. Use the payment plan option. It's an automatic. It'll just debit your credit card every month on the same day. And then you'll be done. And then the train is going to come. You're going to get your pretty box. It's going to be fun.
That box is gorgeous, y'all.
I mean, I love my training. And I do believe I'm very grateful and honored and humbled, because now I know what I set out to create has happened. And it's beyond the doula training, and going online has been very fortunate for me, because it's allowed me to reach more sisters globally, really. So if you're interested, if you have any questions, you can email training@sistamidwife.com, and Brittany will be so happy to answer all of your questions. But registration is open for August 2022, and I'm excited. I look forward to it.
Let me tell you, the sale got me to take the leap, but it was you that kept me there because your authenticity, your passion, that box in the mail. My sister was here when I got it. Like I was souped. I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. Like I get
Yes.
stupid with little things. It was amazing. The you can feel the tradition in class. You can feel spirit talking in class. So
Mm,
everything that you are doing,
thank you.
continue because it even before it gets to your head, it touches your heart. And all I can say is
Yes.
I'm in the right place.
Yes.
So
I
I
should.
thank you for that. I
Thank
thank you
you.
for that.
Thank you so much. So I have enjoyed, Madam Facilitator, hanging out with you. And we can definitely do this again. Definitely
I
do it
look
again. Just let
forward
me
to it.
know.
Well, y'all, I only hold people hostage for an hour. So Nicole, thank you for rocking out with me. Thank you for jumping on the couch. And y'all, it's been another fabulous Tuesday, another fabulous conversation, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye.